Three, two, one, and we are live.
All right, everyone. Thank you and welcome to episode 56 of Gamerz Realm podcast. We have a very, very special guest here, Daniel Pesina. You guys may know him as Johnny Cage or all the ninjas from the first Mortal Kombat, as well as the second Mortal Kombat. But he's also been a very iconic figure in the retro gaming scene and very active also, as well as a martial artist. Before we get to introduce our special guests, I want to also go over our crew today. So we've got our master, of course, Mr. Switch himself, the ringleader of the podcast.
Thank you, guys.
I wouldn't say ringleader, but he's there. He's right there.
I brought
He's
it.
up there.
I'm there.
Yeah, we have KOTETSU. If you introduce yourself.
What's going on, guys? How's everyone doing today?
And of course, we've got Awaken Bacon. How's
Hey
it going?
guys, what's going on? Doing good. Happy to be here.
Yeah, definitely. And then last but not least, we have our special guest, as mentioned, Master Daniel Pesina himself. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me. Getting ready for some questions.
Definitely. So I remember starting off a couple years back in Connecticut. I met you a couple of times, and you were so friendly. You were so like upbeat, and you were showing us like some sword maneuvers with the Star Wars swords, which was pretty awesome. And we were just like hanging out. I remember we took pictures. We even signed my Mortal Kombat, my original box and everything for the Sega Genesis, which I still have up right now in the man cave. So I thought that was pretty awesome. So like great memories for that. I guess some of my first questions would be if you could take us through like how you started out joining Ed Boon and Tobias. If you could walk us through how that all happened back in, I believe might have been 1991 when this all started out.
Actually, it started probably way earlier. What happens is the whole saga is, I have a younger brother. Everybody knows him as Raiden.
Yeah.
Raiden's an artist. So he would get together with a group of friends, and one of those friends who would be like drawing at my mom's kitchen table or at our friend Andy's kitchen table was John Tobias. So because I did martial arts, but I'm also a geek, like I like video games, I collected comic books.
Awesome.
I learned to collect comic books from my older brother who kind of sketched a little bit. But anyway, I would sometimes hang out. We'd go to the movies or go to the arcade together, and John would be there. And then years later, I got a call from him. I just finished doing stunts for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, Secret of the Ooze, martial arts stunts. And he called me up, hey, congratulations on, getting in the movie. And I was like, oh, thanks. What are you up to? And he's like, I work for a video game developer, Midway Games. And he said, I just got off a game. And he goes, and right now, we're going to do a small game, like just a minimal game, maybe 200 arcade cabinets. And I want to do, and before when we were younger, John wanted to direct like a movie, a Kung Fu movie with myself, Rich, who's Kano, and my brother Carlos in it. So he already had kind of like this need to create like this Kung Fu thing. And he's like, I got an idea to do a live video game, but I want it to have real martial arts in it. Because all these other games don't have authentic martial arts, and it's going to be like the Kung Fu movies you used to go see in the old days, and they're going to be fighting each other. And I was like, oh, cool. And he goes, I can't pay you a lot, but since we don't really know what you're doing, you could kind of help me create this game and use this as a credit for your career, for your movie career. At the time, there's only movies. There wasn't many video games being done. You could use it for your reel, and you could be part of this and do this. I was like, oh, it sounds really cool. What do we got to do? He was, I have some sketches, so come to my work after hours. So he wanted to for us to show up later on at night when the place was closed, and do he's like, I want you to do some fighting moves, make some choreography. I'm going to take these sketches, and we're going to take this videotape of you guys fighting, and we're going to present it to Midway. And so I was like, okay, cool, let's do this. So we show up, we play games there because it's Midway. Naturally, I have to play Gallica and Defender for a while. We were playing the games, looking at these drawings that he had, and basically made this tape. And he's like, okay, I'll tell you how it goes. So a couple of days later is when he called me up and he's like, hey, made a presentation to them about my idea about a fighting game. They liked the idea of a fighting game. And when he said that, he said it in a way, it was like, oh, it sounds like somebody's got a spin-off of like your idea. And I was like, well, what do we need to do, to get this game going? And he's like, we need to have a meeting. We're going to have a meeting with a representative from Midway, and they're going to hear the rest of our ideas to make this game. And so we arranged to have lunch pizza with a representative from Midway, which turned out to be Ed Boon. So our second pitch was going to be to Ed Boon to listen to our ideas about Mortal Kombat. So, and then originally, at the end of it, it was surprisingly because we told him our ideas, like I wanted to change the Japanese ninja into the Lin Kuei, and I told him about the Lin Kuei lore, and I was like, John, if you want for me to help you make this game, you have to put the Lin Kuei in there instead of Japanese ninjas, because it's the 90s, so everything is Japanese ninjas, and at this point, nobody's really heard of the Lin Kuei. And and even though they weren't like it was not turned out to be a mythical thing, they would combine martial arts with alchemy and like the dark arts, all this witchcraft and stuff, voodoo and all this stuff. So John was like, okay, we're going to change the Japanese ninja and the Lin Kuei. And at the end, I was like, Ed, what do you think? And Ed just kind of gave me like a single no nod, like that. So I was just like, man, okay, well, we'll find out. Then about a week later, I found out that they passed on the game, that they're going to go with a mainstream idea of making a video game with Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Oh, from based on Bloodsport, right?
Yeah, or
I believe,
Cyber, whatever the Cyber
Cyborg.
Yeah, Cyborg movie. They were going to do a mainstream fighting game, and they said no to our game. So then, Midway.
Imagine that,
right?
But you know what? John called me up like a couple months later, and John's on. I remember because he was just like, guess what? I was like, what? He goes, can you help me make the game? I was like, what happened? He goes, the cheap ass company found out that Jean-Claude Van Damme wants money to make a video game. And I was like, what?
Oh my gosh.
That's great.
Percentage of what they make. But he wants money and a percentage. So they're not going to give it to him. So we're going to get the go ahead to make 200 arcade cabinets. So I was like, yes, we're in business.
And the rest is history.
Kind of not, probably not the way people hear it. Because again, not a lot of people know that Ed Boon said no to the pitch first. So a lot of people think, he came up with he did create it, but not how people think he kind of created it. Though John Tobias really did create like a lot of it. Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess at that time, you guys didn't really have an idea how big this would become then eventually, right?
Well, no, because they told me they were going to make our 200 arcade cabinets. And then I would goof around with John and Ed and say, you're going to make 201 because if you give me one game, I will let you make as many as you want. And then like, no, you know how expensive they are? I promise you, we're only making 200 arcade cabinets.
Yeah, right.
That is something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's historical. I mean, like, I remember, like, me growing up with the Sega Genesis even, when it was finally ported to the Sega and, they kept in the fatalities. So, like, for example, when you would uppercut someone's head off or maybe take off your mask and burn him to, a skeleton, that it was omitted from the Super Nintendo version and kept in the Sega Genesis version, which created this big stir. And I guess that's eventually what led to like video game ratings, like, teen for teen or for mature ratings and all that. So that started like a big movement in its own right. Because, before you had like Street Fighter, and Street Fighter was a lot more tame compared to like Mortal Kombat, which is edgier and just seemed like it caught a lot more of attention, especially since it was using live action. I mean, could you take us through like what it was like on what was it like when you went in there getting screen captured, and they were capturing your action and everything with you and I believe Rich DeVizio. Like, how was it? What was like a day like for that?
Well, the first time I came into film, I show up, John comes over, meets me at the front door. We walk in, I thought it was a storage room. It's where we originally shot footage to sell the game, which I thought was a storage room, but apparently it was a studio. Meaning I thought it was a storage room because they would have like a broken lamp, a broken desk, broken stairs. You know what I mean? So I thought it was just a junk room. And John looks around, and we kind of looked around, and he's like, let's look around for a flat wall. We need a flat wall. So we just picked a flat wall to shoot against. And then John and I started moving like the stuff out of the way to make room to film. And then John was like, this is ridiculous. He's like, so he calls up Ed. So it winds up myself, Ed, and John clean for like an hour to get a space where I can actually do martial arts out of. And Ed leaves and says, okay, you guys need something, just, give me a call. I'll come back and help you guys. So I just leave John and I in this room. And John sets up his camera. And so to give you an idea, it's John's dad's camera. It's not even like a professional camera.
Wow.
It's a home high-8 camera. So though it's probably the most expensive you can buy as a consumer, it is not that $30,000 or $20,000 camera. It's like a home camera.
That's great.
So John just goes, he's like, okay, he goes, this is a shot sheet. High, medium, low. And I was like, okay. And he goes, so let's start with high. And then I'm like, okay, go ahead. And that's the direction I got.
And go.
Right, and go. So I was just like, so I don't know if people are going to be able to see this like that. So I would take a punch and punch like this, and then like 30 times. And we'd look at it, and then I'd be like, let's try it like this. So I don't even know if you guys can see that I moved it from here to here. And then I tried 30 times. And then I tried this 30 times. And then this and this. And then all the way until I was doing like a screw punch like that. And then I'd be like, okay, so now let's take this and do that different ways 30 times. Then I do tiger claw. Then I do eagle claw. Then I do crane's beak. And then I do snake. And then I try a chop like this and chop like that. And we were literally, on the first day, we filmed for 8 hours.
Dang.
Wow. That's a long time.
It was like just 8 hours on concrete floor. And then the next day I come in and John's like, okay, we're going to do that with kicks. We're starting high and different kicking low and stuff like that. And we did that another 8 hours. And then John is like, he was like, I got to take a look at this video. So don't come back for 2 days, because I'll look at it and for 1 day, and then you come back the next day following that, and we can start figuring out what we're going to do. So I come back, 1 day break, I come back the next day, and John is like, we cannot use any of that. I was like, what happened?
Oh my God.
He's like, when you're too close to the camera, you're bigger than when you're further away.
Jeez.
And then I was like, oh, this is not like a movie. Because in the movie, when you film, it gives you a sense of depth, but this is going to be really 2D, and you can't even move too far forward, because when you stand, you're bigger than or smaller than when you started. So I was like, John, I need to mark the floor. And then John is like, you mark the floor because I need to mark where the camera is placed. So while John made that, so if you look at behind the footage, in the end, there's a little square. That's my design. I designed that little square thing for your feet, which direction, stuff like that, which happened over the course of like 6 days, because we filmed for 4 more days. Because at the end of the days of doing all these techniques and going back to, like, I couldn't, he was like, don't look down. So I was like, can you see my eyes? He goes, the eyes don't matter. So I would kind of like keep my chin like this, make sure I lined up on these lines, on these little squares. I throw a kick, and he's like, you can't kick too fast, and you can't punch too fast. The images are too blurry. So you got to do everything in slow motion, but you got to do your body like you just can't go like this, do that. You have to have some kind of movement, like you have to look like martial arts. Because originally we wanted to take a lot we're like, in the end, we took for a kick, like, I think the kick is like 3 or 4 frames. But he originally wanted to use try to use like 12, 13 frames in the movie to make it look like
Make it more fluid.
He wanted it to look like kind of like Dragon Slayer.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Like
Yeah.
little smoother, but not so, not so many frames, but more frames to make it look real.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the day, it's like, okay, come back tomorrow. We come back tomorrow. Somebody had picked up the tape.
What?
We laid whatever we used the day before was no good, and we had to start over again.
Oh,
Oh,
my
God.
gosh.
But John was like, came up. He's like, but he goes, you know what I realized? He goes, every move you do, we got to make a mental note because you have to do a response move for every. So if the guy hits you like this, I want you to, and then you turn your fist, I want you to respond differently. So I can't just go like this. I got to freaking, he's like this. And he goes, you know what you need to do? He goes, you need to do a technique 3 times and then change it. And I'll just keep filming everything. And then we'll take a look at it. And so on the 4th day, I wind up like doing all this freaking unorganized stuff and just kind of, we look at it and we feel like, oh, we got to change this. We got to change that. Oh, don't move. The lighting is too here. We got to make more marks in this square thing. So we did that actually for 6 days, not 8 hours a day. And on the 6th day, John was like, I think we have a pathway to the creation of the game. What we need to do now is we need to, when you come in the 7th day, we're going to have Ed come in and take a look at what you're doing, because Ed's going to tell you what he needs, what the moves we have, how we can fit those into a game. And at this time we had like big uppercut, we had small uppercut, we had really tiny uppercut. We had like a lot. We wanted to have so many different techniques in the game. But when Ed came in and took a look at it, he's like, there's no way the memory of this game can take all those moves. He goes, so he goes, 2, when you're doing it, it's not like you're fighting a real person. You have to fight them really far away. So everything has to be like really extended out. He goes, because otherwise, if they come too close, they start responding, but there's no action to respond to because the hitboxes make contact.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So Ed
right.
describes this. So he's like, he stays for a little bit and watches us. He's like, you guys got the idea. You need me. He goes back in the office. And John and I spent another 6 hours that day doing that. So Johnny Cage was the first character that, we filmed. So he got to, after the 6 days, I didn't film in costume. 2, it was so cheap that we would erase whatever we didn't use. So all those 6 days of history you'll never see them because we are taped over them. We taped over all that stuff. And even stuff we were creating, we'd be like, are we going to use that? I don't know. Let's tape over stuff and then other stuff.
Wow.
That's so 90s. I love it.
I know.
When we were taping, we started creating all these different things, all of not only solving the problems of making the game, but creating like one time we're like, when I was doing something and John looked at me, he's like, dude, he's just like, that's a boring end. The guy you can't just hit the guy and then he just falls down dead. We got to think of a way to finish the guy. We need some finishing moves. And so he's like, how would you finish him? And then that's where eventually originally he's like, we need 3 ways to finish him. So that way you can pick 3 different ways to finish an opponent. That's the first game. So we wanted to have 3 that came out fatalities. So the first ever fatality was I wanted to jump up in the air and punch the guy, pull it out, and the guy turns to the camera and he's got a hole in his face. And
I did not know that. That's crazy.
Yeah,
That would have been a good one.
That would have been a good one.
Game. I think they used it for a later game, but that was the first ever fatality. We filmed it. Yeah, I have me doing that on
That's a shame they taped over a lot of that footage because that would be so cool to see kind of a retrospective behind the scenes of how all,
Yeah.
because to think of how huge Mortal Kombat turned into, and still a big money maker to this day, to know what kind of a beautiful shit show it started out as.
Yeah, really, it was like really, when I was doing the falling, I had to fall like for 3 or 4 hours different ways. I fell on concrete. And at the end of the day, I was like, and John's like, you okay? And I was like, John, I don't know if the rest of the guys that we bring in are going to want to fall on the floor. And then John was like, I'll get a mat. Yeah.
Innovation.
Everybody else gets a mat, but you.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. After the fact that I've been falling on this hard concrete.
Yeah, so we were just trying to, like, I would look at the way we fall, and then I was like, man, I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like this. I don't like that. And like I said, we did that for a couple hours, at least over a couple hours. And finally, I was like, what if he doesn't fall? What if he flips back? What if we have everybody flipping back in the back? And John is like, what? And I was like, just tape this. And so it is now what everybody gets falls back. Whatever you see, everybody is a product of not just, just fall. It was like over 2 hours of trying to figure out how to make it look, how to sell it on a 2D image with limited, with limited space and with limited technology, I guess.
Wow.
So yeah, because they didn't even use green screens, right? When they were recording behind you guys, no green screens.
No, we used to. If you notice, like if you look at the sequences, Johnny Cage, then Kano, then Raiden. But each time, like by the time we got to Raiden, we started thinking of more things, and so Johnny Cage would have to come back and reshoot some things because we just started creating ideas while we were creating the game. Like for instance, like when we were creating Raiden, Rich and Carlos, Kano and Raiden wanted to have a secret tag team match, but only them two versus you. So if you got to be winning, you couldn't just beat Raiden up. All of a sudden you could touch the button and then in jumps Kano. And then you have to fight Raiden and Kano at the same time.
Which was something that kind of came to be, like not in Mortal Kombat, I don't think, but the other fighting games.
Yeah, it was in. I seen it in Street Fighter Alpha 2 or Street Fighter Alpha 3, where they actually had. I think they're called like dramatic battles, where you can actually have either, and they'll have them like a scenario that's kind of like on the lore of Street Fighter. They'll say, hey, you'll have Ken and Ryu versus Bison, but Bison is like crazy strong, or like a situation with they just really tried to fit it with the lore with the dramatic battle. So yeah, that's kind of crazy to see that idea of that is just seen in other yeah.
So that we had that idea like in Mortal Kombat 1 to have that so I think that's where the whole, for me recalling it, that's where the whole thing is where we got to have a secret. But naturally Carlos and Rich wanted it to be only them two. Like me and my friend Ho Sung, we couldn't have Liu Kang and Johnny Cage versus Raiden or no.
That'd been awesome.
That's Liu Kang, everybody.
Oh yeah.
Viewers.
So naturally they wanted to be the strongest one, but two, that's how a lot of things develop. Like when Rich saw me decapitate somebody, he's like, I want to think of something more. So like originally Rich ripped out your heart, took a bite of it and held it up. But Tobias Tobias was like, whoa, we can't do that. We can do a lot of stuff.
It can't happen yet. We can't do it yet, but it'll happen
Not
later.
yet.
Right.
See stuff like that.
So each of us tried to one up each other, and then we kind of come back and be like, oh, I want to do this or that. So we were like a lot of things, a lot of things going on.
Gosh, that must have been a lot of fun to put together and then see the final. I mean, how did you feel when you finally saw the final product, like roll out on arcades, and how did you feel about it?
The first time I saw the almost final product was when I saw, at the time there was only Johnny Cage versus Johnny Cage because they were the only one character. And Tobias called me, oh, you got to come in and say this. And we were talking about the game. John just came off of a game where he put blood in. So John wanted to put blood into this game. But it was like, but because it was still in testing, when John gave the blood thing design to Ed. Ed just kind of threw it in and just let it go crazy. You know what I mean?
Man.
So when I knocked his head off, originally there's a fountain of blood just because it looks
great.
at the time it's 1991. It looks like me, and I just got my head knocked off, and I was just like, whoa! I was like, John, can we do this? And John looked at me like, who's around us? I was like, just you and I. And he goes, you and I could do whatever we want.
Nice.
Yeah, so that was it.
That's so funny.
Yeah, it was such a huge deal. I remember like, you know, Mortal Kombat was probably the single art cabinet that I pumped the most quarters in, you know, back in 92, 93, you know, when arcades were a thing. Now we don't even have them anymore.
Yeah. And two, it was meant to do that because when we were creating the game, I was like, oh, it's martial art. Everything has to do with martial art. Even the projectiles later have, the way we do them has something to do with martial arts. We made sure that it was like, you know, like Johnny Cage, when he puts his hand behind his back, he pulls out alchemy and then throws it at you. So it's not just like he's just throwing a thing. Everybody harnesses the energy from something. Like originally I had Sub-Zero pull air from the air down into the center of your body, shape the air, and then shoot it out. So we were going to have like stuff like that in the game, but just the memory restriction didn't do that. But when it came to Tester Might, I was just like, John, what is Tester Might? And he's like, Boop, it's all about the quarter. We call each other Boop. He's like, Boop, it's all about the quarters. He goes,
yeah, right.
You lose this, you got to dump another quarter in. And I was like, man, I was just like, holy cow. So it was designed to take your quarters.
Yeah. The test your might thing and would be equivalent to Street Fighters where you had to beat up the car.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was
So
annoying.
So annoying. Or like the
Yeah,
barrels, or if you had a Shoto character, you had the Shoryuken the barrels, because I was like one of the either uppercut or crouch and then press a heavy and uppercut, because I was like the best way to do it. And the other way you're gonna get wrecked, and yeah, you lose your quarters.
Yeah. So things
Good
have changed a lot. I mean, yeah, that was all about the quarters, you know, but now, you know, it's everything's on home console. So you don't have those little tidbits, and I kind of miss them, you know, because you don't see that anymore. You don't see a test your might or the little in between stages that were meant to take your quarters, and they did.
Yeah.
They worked really well, you know.
Like I know some of those features. Oh, go ahead, Daniel. Sorry.
No. I was just going to say, but it made friends, because when you would lose your quarter, the guy watching you would be like, yeah, there's a brotherhood going on.
Yeah. Way to push that button, buddy.
Yeah.
Push it so fast.
I think it's cool that you mentioned the first kind of concept of Sub-Zero, where he would control the flow of air or wind, because there's a character that they made later called Fujin, who is the god of wind, who has moves like that, where he does in the newer games, where he does pull the air out of your body and then uses that as a projectile. So I think that's it, just kind of nice little Easter egg to know that was the first concept of Sub-Zero before they went the way they did. And then they said, well, we can use a character that can control wind, and that's where Fujin came in. Like I played Mortal Kombat since I was born, so I know everything about.
Since I was born. Shut up, baby.
Okay, yeah, I'm over exaggerating it, because my parents wouldn't let me play Mortal Kombat because how violent it was. Like I remember I was over at my cousin's house. They were playing Mortal Kombat 3, and I was probably like, that's when the gruesomeness started to come in.
Oh yeah.
We were sitting in the living room, and my mom was there, and I was like, what? I would say I was probably like 5 or 6. And she saw one of the fatalities, and she freaked out, and she like covered my eyes every time.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, what are you doing? And she would like cover my eyes. I'm like, what are you doing? And like
This is great.
but I was younger, so I didn't understand it. But you know, now I'm like, okay, now I get why she didn't get to see that stuff, because that stuff is crazy. Like I wouldn't, if my nephew was in here and I'd play Mortal Kombat 11, I'd say, oh, I pause it. I'll be like, what do you want to do? You want to leave, or you want to sit here and we'll turn on the TV and watch something else?
Yeah,
I was
'cause
like 15, 16 years old when Mortal Kombat came out. So, I was more like, wow.
Yeah, I was like, Kira's like, why are you covering my eyes? What's that red stuff coming out of the person when he got his head cut? That's
it's just ketchup.
It's Kool-Aid.
It's
Don't worry
it's
about
just
it.
Kool-Aid.
I'm sure that was the lie that was told to me when I was younger.
That's so funny. Yeah, I was 6 years old when Mortal Kombat Part 1 came out. So, yeah, about 6 years old. But I remember, because I have an older brother, so he used to put me up on the older stuff when my parents weren't around. We used to kill it on the Sega Genesis.
And remember, on the Sega Genesis, it didn't come with the blood default. You had to put in the
No,
blood
I think it
code.
was,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it was
But they
like
made
sweat or something when you got uppercutted or something like that.
Yeah.
And they made the code super simple. They wanted to put the blood in there, so they gave you, I think it was ABBA or something like that on the start screen.
ABA, CABB, and then you had the special other code where you had like the one button fatalities. And what else did you get on there? Like you had to skip the stages. That was down, up, left, A, right, down. That on the main screen.
Nerd.
See, I was a Sega Genesis boy. We had that. Super Nintendo didn't have that.
Right?
they did. The sound was better on Super Nintendo, I think.
It
but,
was.
Yeah, it
but
was.
I also had Sega Genesis, but I guess I forgot all the codes.
It's great.
Hey,
Good times.
Wait, did you have all your questions in, or?
Yeah, those are the questions I have for now. Yeah. I don't know if Awaken Bacon or KOTETSU, if you guys have anything you guys want to add questions. Or...
I can go.
Oh, yeah.
I don't have a lot, so I'll just go through, and I'll let Awake. I know Awaken has some questions, but I have most of my questions are from the from the chat here, because they got all my questions out of my mouth. So, the first question is from Sir Save a Lot. He asked, "What was your favorite finisher while doing 1 and 2?"
Save a Lot. My favorite fatality, naturally I created it, is Sonya's Kiss of Death.
Ooh,
Okay.
I did not know that.
I didn't see that coming, but
and it's because of the story. Like when John would always look at me and say, we need a finishing move, because we didn't have a fatality yet. He's like, we need a finishing move. And I was like, how about if she does the kiss of death? And he's like, okay, what? And I was like, she's gonna go like this, blow a kiss, and it's gonna look like a butterfly. When it hits you, poof, you blow up. And then Sonya, who is Liz Malecki, looked at me and she goes, I don't want to kill anybody. Can I be their friend? Can I give them a flower? We all busted out laughing, but that whole friendship and giving a flower thing, it just was just at that spot, So that's why I really like that fatality, because it's kind of like it shows the real story, that how the collaboration and how ideas popped up.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, my famous finisher move is Sonya's Kiss of Death.
Huh.
I get it. The next one is from Level 1 Online. He asked, what are your thoughts on the new Mortal Kombat movie?
Oh, that's a good question.
Level 1, I have high hopes. I thought that the first Mortal Kombat movie should have had fatalities, like blood fatalities. But I understand that, whoever buys the movie rights has a right to make money. And I think that's, if you're going to make it PG-13, you get the kids who are 13, 14, they can come by themselves and watch the movie over and over. With, I can understand why they did it. But for me, I was very disappointed because, Mortal Kombat is dark. It's like Dark Batman. It's not like the TV series Batman. It's Frank Miller Batman,
Yeah. That's actually a good way to that's actually a great way to look at it. Like when you're saying that, I kind of took it from because they made it PG-13, and during the time when it came out, it was like kind of like the audience was, probably like, I don't know, probably like 15 and up or somewhere like that, who's like really putting some time into it. And then this one is more like, okay, for everyone who was in that era, and who's played the game now, this is like what you expect Mortal Kombat to be, is like this bloody mess. You know, besides the story, it's like this bloody mess. And we get like little tidbits of it in the trailer where, you know, Sub-Zero cuts Scorpion, he turned into ice and it's a weapon. And then they show all the quick, like 3-second fatalities at the end of the trailer. So that's actually a great way to look at that. And then one from me, and this is going to go back to one of the questions in the guests or in the chat. What kind of drew you to studying martial arts?
When I was about 6 years old, on Sundays, I would watch a program called Charlie Chan the Detective with my father. Raiden was not born yet. He'd come like a year or two later. So, but this was my family time. I had 2 older brothers, and naturally, they don't want to hang out with me because they're much older than me. So I'm watching this TV with this, and I see this detective throw this guy, judo throw this guy. And I was like, holy cow, that's cool, because this is a short little Chinese guy, probably not even a Chinese guy, but he was fat, and he throws this stunt guy, you know. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. And my dad looks at me, and my dad was in the U.S. military. But my dad's like, oh, I could show you a throw. I think he was just goofing around. But I go to throw my dad, and he jumps over and he hits the ground. And I want my dad to do that again because it's so cool. But my dad probably hurt his back, and he's like, no, I don't want to do this anymore. So I was like, oh, I want to really learn this stuff. I really learn this stuff. And then, you know, I just kept bugging him until he finally was like, all right, I got to take this guy in for lessons now because I created this monster. So you know, so that is how I got to, you know, I started doing judo, and there was, you know, Bruce Lee doing Kato on the TV, which also inspired me. But that's like how I got into it. I just like that. And 2, I think because of my age difference, you know, the martial arts is a sport where and an art where you learn it with people, but it's really about you. So it's a group sport and art, but it's really personal, you know. So that's why I think I was really, really attracted to it.
Did you ever compete, like tournaments, stuff like that?
Yeah, I've competed in over 100 tournaments.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Cool.
Wow.
Nationally, internationally. At one time, I held in a Chinese Chinese invitational, because too, like if China throws a tournament, they don't want just anybody coming in to do it, because they do martial arts all day long. It's their national pride thing. So they invite certain people. But at the time that I went in 2000, I understood that in one of the divisions that I competed in, I got the highest scores of any foreigner ever.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. But I think that was the last time I competed, in 2000. So yeah, I competed.
Nice. Cool.
Yeah. I know when.
And
oh, go ahead. Go ahead, QA.
I was just gonna ask. So you're currently teaching wushu right now, I believe, in Chicago. Wushu.
Wushu means martial art.
So
kung fu. Kung fu means skill and time. So wushu just means martial art. Like if you practice Korean martial art, it could be tang sudo, you know, or you practice Japanese wushu, that's karate.
Karate.
You know, which karate means China hand in the old days. And so look at the kanji.
That's awesome.
Look at the old way they spell karate. One is China and the other one is hand. You know, so yeah, so
China hand.
So yeah, so I do traditional. I like to call it traditional wushu, which means like the old kung fu or the old.
Awesome. Yeah. That's awesome.
I think that's your story is a little bit similar to mine. Well, I mean, most of ours, like I watch Power Rangers, I'm like, yo, I want to do that. And then like they tried to find classes, but my dad didn't like the fact that there was a couple schools we went to because I wanted to learn, and he took me. And there's a couple that were like, you can't ask questions, you can't do anything, you have to like wait until it's in. And my dad is like, well, that doesn't make sense, because what if he wants to know this, he wants to know that, and he has it right then and there, and he can't ask it, you know, and you're young, so you're not going to have the attention span, and the mind kind of, you know, your mind isn't going to hold that question to the end of like an hour or whatever the session is. So my dad was just like, well, you just teach yourself. And I was like, okay. So like most of the time I watched I watched a lot of like Jackie Chan movies, Bruce Lee, and then we watched a Bruce Lee documentary. And then I kind of love the choreography fact, like the cinema side of it, where I watched a lot of, you know, Chinese cinema, and I watched the early days of Jackie Chan where he was doing his stuff. And then I fell into Donnie Yen, or
Young,
I fell
yeah.
into him.
Yeah.
And he is crazy. There's another one, Sammy. I forgot his last name. His name is Sammy something.
Sammo Hung.
And yeah, he is a big guy, but he's able to do everything, and it's like that's crazy.
Gives me confidence.
Yeah, like it's crazy. Like even his early days, like you see him, like he's like in the, like you'll see he'd be like this punching bag, but then he'll just decimate everyone in the movies, and like the most. And I loved it too because it was so creative of how they, you know, how they use their environment, which was like, what, like you see Jackie Chan, like he would grab one of the benches, and I think it was like in the Drunken Master, where he would like use the benches, and he would like fight with those, or he would use the bamboos and, you know, rip the sleeves off and spit the wine on there, and then it would just like do more. It was just I fell in love with all of that, but I can talk about that stuff all day too. But I fell in love with all the cinematic of everything.
Yeah.
And then one more from the chat is what's your favorite well, he asked you your top 5 favorite martial arts movies.
Ooh, that's a good question.
Oh man, my top 5. I would say one is Burning Paradise, where basically the one kung fu guy betrays like the Shaolin Temple because he doesn't think the people at the Shaolin Temple like they've gotten too soft. But anyway, and then there's the old training sequences are in there. I like another one, Mad Monkey Kung Fu, just because at the time it's a classic, and one of them. Naturally, 5 Deadly Venoms, because that had a lot to do with Mortal Kombat, and so did 36 Chambers, had a lot to do.
I've seen 36 Chambers.
And then another one, Jet Li's Kung Fu Cult Masters, pretty good.
I remember that one too.
My 5. I think right now, though I have probably more now that I'm thinking, but we'll stop at those 5. And by the way, Sammo Hung fought Bruce Lee in Enter the Dragon. Its opening scene is Bruce Lee.
I have to go back.
Whereas Bruce has the black mitts, and he's fighting.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
That's Sammo Hung.
They also said that Jackie Chan, actually, there was a scene where Jackie Chan played as one of the like as a start, he played as one of the one of the guys coming at Jet Li. I forgot what scene it was. I think it was in, maybe it wasn't Enter the Dragon, or was it
the Dragon 2, where he grabs him and he holds him by the hair.
Yeah.
Also in Fist of Fury, he gets kicked in the face and goes flying. And he was a stuntman, so he actually like do a stunt, and then so Jackie Chan's crazy because he just ran through himself out a window.
Yeah, that's great.
I remember it was one movie, I forgot which movie it was. But it was a mall scene where he was running, and he actually jumped on one of the it was a light and it had all these bulbs on it. He literally jumped on and slid all the way down, and you see all the bulbs just popping as he's going down. And after that, you just see him just scratched up and like burned, and like the next day he'll be like, "All right, let's go." I was like, I need like 3 days before.
Was that Super Cop or Super Cops?
I think it was. I forgot what. I think it was Super Cop that he did. But yeah, Jackie Chan is probably still one of like the greatest like performers when he's stuff.
Oh, he said like over 600 broken bones.
Yeah.
That's a lot of broken bones.
Nuts. That is a lot of broken bones.
Yeah, actually, he's really, really nice. I saw him. I went out to shoot, which I didn't get to be in, but I went out. was invited to go on Drunken Master 2. And I swear to God, we were meeting at a restaurant, and he had a roll of $100 bills about this big for you guys.
Oh my gosh.
Only a thing like 4 inches. And when he went in, he was just giving them away to people.
Wow.
Really?
Jeez.
Yeah, US $100 bills in Hong Kong. I was just like, whoa, no one, he's just so generous and so kind to like people.
It's actually a police story. Level 1 online said it was police story.
Police story.
When he did that. That's crazy. But
we were in the
you.
ballpark.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, it was like super cop. Something had to do with cop. Yeah, he's it. But thank you for answering my questions, and everyone in the chat. I'm sure they're happy you ever answer those questions too for them.
Thanks for the time.
All right, Awaken, it's all you.
I think I've forgotten more questions at this point now that I have. So you were Sub-Zero, Scorpion, Reptile. When you did those characters, you had the costume. It was just one costume, right? And they did color swaps in the video game.
Originally, there was only going to be one Lin Kuei. We had 9. We were going to shoot, I think, 9 different characters. But because we didn't know what we planned for 9, but not the first character, but creating the whole thing took so long and so much filming. Like, like I said, we would just erase stuff, look at stuff, come back, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. So I remember we're going to do just one Lin Kuei, and we didn't have a name. Raiden was Head.
Head.
Kano was just Rich. My character was just Danny. Ho-Sun's character was just Ho. I think Liz was the only one who had a name for a character. Her name was Sonia right away. But so we were shooting Raiden, and John is like, hey, we're running out of time. We're thinking of doing a palette swap. And I was like, what's that? So he goes, I want you to create like two of the Lin Kuei, and we're just gonna, just make enough moves to make them different. When people look at them, they're different, but they're kind of the same because they're going to be both of them are Lin Kuei from the same family. And then, we were goofing around, and Carlo, and at the time, like there were 5 programmers working on Mortal Kombat 1, and there was 1 main artist and 1 background artist, because this is when I found out, like John was like, I was like, John, you all right? Because he came in, he was like wearing the same clothes for like 2 days in a row. I was like, you all right? He goes, the programmers think it's funny when all 5 of them drop their work on my desk at once, and I have to spend 2 days making adjustments.
Wow.
And I was just like, I'm John's friend. I'm like, John, you want me to talk to him? And John starts laughing. He's like, no, you don't need to talk to him. They work for us. He goes, then we got to find other guys to work for us. Yeah, no, we manhandle anybody because he's my friend. So we were like that. So I was just like, wow. So shortly after is when John broke our news. We're going to have 2 palette swap. And then my brother Carlos was like, John, why are you so lazy? He was just goofing around because John has been working for like 48 hours. He's got the same clothes on. My friend smelled, because just from he's got the same clothes on. He's been in on it. And then he looks at me, Carlos, and says, you know what? These guys are not going to be the same clan. They're going to be arch enemies. They're going to be brothers like you 2 guys, and one brother kills the other brother's father to seize control of the clan, and so they're arch enemies, and they're just going to fight each other. And I was just like, whoa, he just created that on the spot. I think that part stuck with it, that Sub-Zero and Liu Kang are always like the arch.
Scorpion
are the arch enemies, just by that smart ass comment. So that that was my thing, was like, when I'm filming this like that, and in the end, John was just like, you know what, this is working out pretty good. Can you create 3 more characters? Like, just shoot enough stuff so that way, if we have time to have more characters, we'll just make them all Lin Kuei. And so I was like, okay. I thought of, besides Sub-Zero, which didn't have a name, but of those 2 do Lin Kuei, I thought of 3 more Lin Kuei to be in the first game.
So did that turned out to be Reptile? Was that you?
Well, one of them turned out, I think Reptile, we had enough for Reptile, but also Carlos and Rich came up with a secret character. And I think that all those ideas kind of melded and gave Ed the idea to have a secret Lin Kuei character.
Okay, because it was Sub-Zero, Scorpion, and Reptile in the first one. I don't think Smoke wasn't in the first one, right? He was in the second one.
He was in part 2.
Yeah, but there was
that's what
material to make 3 more.
Oh.
But we just didn't use it. You know?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we ran out of time. They almost gave us 9 months to create the game, and I think Johnny Cage took up 3 months.
Oh, man.
Where did the idea of, obviously Noob Sabat, Tobias is backwards, where did that come from? I mean, I know that, it was his name, but whose idea was it that kind of was like, hey, we're going to make this other Lin Kuei ninja who's, kind of secret character, Noob Sabat.
Yeah. And too, this is like my opinion though. Again, what happened, because that's like when that came out, that was close to the end of the second game. And I started to, because of our initial agreement of 200 arcade games, I started asking them for my bonus, because when they told me they were going to pre-order 10,000 games, they were a pre-order. So they didn't even make games. They were like, hey, we sold 10,000 games. I was like, oh, that's really cool. But you only promised that you're going to make 200 games. And then, and John and Ed looked at me and I was like, guys, I gave you the opportunity to give me a game, and I told you can make as many as you want, but now you guys are going to make more. Now what are we going to do? And then John and I, we're going to give you a bonus. And then it went to arcade. Then it was going to go to the home system. I was like, guys, you didn't say that. And John and Ed were like, we're going to give you a bonus. But too, the habit too is like when I did Mortal Kombat, I started working. I didn't get paid for 3 months. Like. So I was in a habit of them not paying on time. So when I finally asked them for the money, we had the owners and I and John and Ed had this disagreement over this money there was no written contract. So I think that the product of Noob and Noob Saibot is just, they want to put their name on the game and kind of like forget like, oh, these other guys, in my opinion, these other guys helped create it. But intellectual property won't stand if other people are creating it. And I think that's one of the reasons they don't take ideas from fans. Like if a fan comes up with an idea or a fan comes up with an HD game, they won't touch that because the IP fight over that is just too big. They'll lose so much because there's so many things to do that. So I think that character is created, that character, they killed off Johnny Cage. They didn't have Scorpion and Sub-Zero in the third game, all had something to do with me, having this disagreement with them over getting paid.
Yeah.
So that's a lesson to everybody listening. No matter what you do, get a lawyer to look over your contract.
Yeah. So you left. Yeah, right. Okay. So you split ways with Midway after the second game. And there was a couple of games that you promoted for other companies during that time. I don't think either one of them were actually Bloodstorm and Tattoo Assassins.
Bloodstorm was done by one of the guys who helped us with backgrounds for Mortal Kombat 2. He left. Oh, okay. He left the company and he called John and Ed up, and he asked, he's like, and this guy knew him because he would come in and watch me work. Like whenever I was there, he's like, oh, Danny's here. I got to go watch him work. He was really like, man, how did you come up with that? How did you do this? How does he was just like really intrigued about like, oh, I could come up with stuff on the spot. But naturally, I've been doing a lot of martial arts. So it was just, if you've been doing martial arts for 20 years and you're making a game, you got a lot to pull from. So he left the company and he called John and Ed and he's like, hey, you think this guy, Danny, could do some advertising for me? And then John was like, Ed, what do you think? And Ed's like, well, you can't. He goes, you can't dress like Johnny Cage, but you are who you are. And there's no reason you cannot wear sunglasses. So, because we don't own the rights to that. We only own the rights to the sprites and stuff like that. So if you want to do this job, he goes, don't dress like Johnny Cage. And I was like, okay. And I was like, Ed, how much should I charge him? He goes, those guys have a lot of money. He goes, charge them whatever you think of right now, charge them 3 times more. And he goes, and I'm going to give you a lesson on business. If you go and tell them the price and they say yes right away, you charge too little. And so that really taught me a business lesson. So I was just like, so I told Leaf, hey, I want to, you know, I think at the time he wanted to photo shoot me for 2 hours. And I was like, $1,000 an hour. And he's like, okay. And I was like, crap, I could have gotten more. You know? Holy cow. So, and I told Ed later, and Ed was like, I told you, you know, like that. So I did Bloodstorm because of that, and because it was associated with an MK2. And Tattoo Assassins is one of Ho Sung Pak Liu Kang's projects. Liu Kang started that project. So
okay.
He asked me for help on that, another game called Thea Realm Fighters, and the third video game, I forget what it's called, but I kind of did a little bit of work from that, but most of that stuff got smashed because of Nintendo and Sega, like smashing the little guys. Like they smashed Jaguar, you know, and the other.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're too powerful. But so yeah, so I did have a couple other ones, but everything was Mortal Kombat related.
Tattoo Assassins looks. I found that, and I had to look it up on YouTube, and I watched the gameplay. That game was. I wish it was released. It looks ridiculous. You know, I mean, in a good way. And like, you know, the characters were. Has anybody else seen it?
Now I'm like looking at it. I'm like, yeah, I've seen something like this before, and I'm like looking at it now. I'm like,
have
wow.
loved this game back in the mid 90s or whatever. I would have played it. But what's weird about it is I was looking at it, and there was the 3DO, the game system, the Panasonic 3DO. There's a character in that game that's on ice skates. She's like an ice skater. And the idea behind the game is the tattoos like all come out, and their finishers are based on whatever tattoo they have. But one of her finishers was that she farted fire.
I'm looking at that. I'm looking at that right now. That's
Okay.
the first thing I saw, and I was like, oh my god.
And I distinctly remember a piece of garbage. It wasn't Tattooed Assassins, but this was this horrible fighting game on 3DO, and I swear they used that character in that game. There wasn't any other similarity, but they had an ice skater that farted fire. So
there was on the Jaguar, it was Kasumi Ninja. You guys remember that game? Kasumi Ninja. It
sounds familiar.
It's like a Mortal Kombat ripoff. That game is, you could tell they were definitely trying to steal. Like it was I think it came out on the Jaguar system, like just after Mortal Kombat 1 was released, and like they had a guy, he had like a little Scottish kilt on, and I think he also does like a farting, like not a finisher, but like a projectile.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that sounds familiar. I'm not quite sure what this game was, because it was given some generic name, but it definitely wasn't Tattoo Assassins. But watching through the game, so you didn't have any, you just did promotion for this. You didn't do any like stunt coordination or anything for either of these two games.
No, not for those two games. But Doc Mack, owner of Galloping Ghost, has Tattoo Assassin arcade game. So if you ever get to Chicago, Brookfield, you could visit play a little.
Apparently, you can find the ROM on your the download too. It's really hard to find because I was about to look for it. You did some acting that I found really interesting, and one of the movies was just in 2007 called Press Start. What was that like? That movie looks like something I'd be into. I haven't seen it, but I really want to now.
Actually, I just watched it 2 weeks ago at a movie theater. One of the arcade owners around here had it showing at a movie theater where we rented out a movie theater, and about 30 people went to it. So, if you can imagine a movie theater with 500 seats and there's 30 people in it. But I watched it for the first time. It's really, really hilarious. Just a fan reached out to me. Hey, I have this movie. I live like 3 hours away. Can you help me do this movie? And I was like, sure. And then he was like, "Do you think your brother would be interested?" And I said, "I'll call him. Let me call him right now." And so I called the guy back, Ed Glazier, and I was like, "Yeah, he'll do it. When you want to do it, you know, as long as you come to me and film, like we could film at the school, and I don't, you know, I'm gonna just, you know, 2 or 3 hours of my time there. I'll help you out." And so showed up, and we made a film.
I'm gonna have to hunt that down. I definitely am. Another thing is they made a few years back for, I think this was just released on YouTube, but they did what seemed like a long trailer for a would-be Mortal Kombat game. I think Michael Jai White was in it as Jax. Does anybody remember this?
Oh,
it was really like, gritty and based in reality.
Is it like Mortal Kombat? Like it was like the first concept of a movie when Mortal Kombat 9 came out.
Legacy?
And they had like
it might have been around that time.
Was it Mortal Kombat?
It didn't
Legacy?
have a subtitle. It was never a movie that was made, but they made a trailer for it. And
yeah, Mortal Kombat Legacy.
Was Jax interviewing? Was it the scene where like Jax was interviewing someone?
No, Jax was like a police chief.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And then you know, you had like, I think Johnny Cage was in it, but he got killed really fast. I mean, the whole thing was only like 10 minutes long. But I was like,
say it probably was Legacy.
Is that what it was called?
Yeah.
Maybe. I'm gonna check it real quick.
I love that. I was like, please make this into a movie. Please, 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 please. But I'm glad they're finally making a Mortal Kombat that hopefully will do it justice. You know, as far as the blood and what it was originally supposed to be. Because while I loved the first Mortal Kombat movie, the second one was garbage.
Oh, yeah. Annihilation was terrible.
I think I want to say because Mortal Kombat 1 did so well, or did I don't know how well. It probably did okay.
It did pretty
well. They probably
well.
said, okay, let's it's a cash cow. Let's do number 2. And it just didn't do it. Yeah. So it's Legacy. Like the first scene is you see Jax in this. You see Jax coming in, and he interviews Scorpion, and it goes through the whole scene of when Johnny Cage is fighting Baraka. He gets killed in the first. It just said Mortal Kombat live action. There wasn't anything to it. And then after that, they did the Legacy series. I think they did like 3 or 4 episodes of Legacy. And then like they were supposed to do another season, but then that was it. And then now we're going to be getting a Mortal Kombat movie.
Yeah, I just saw the one thing, but Legacy, wasn't that the TV series that was on like USA or TNT or something?
No,
and it had like Luke. Who was the guy with the hat?
Kung Lao.
Kung Lao, yeah.
Kung Lao. He was
that one was like that one took place. I'm pretty big on freaking Mortal Kombat, so you ask me anything, I'll give you an answer for it. But I think that one came out shortly after the movie, so they did I remember it was like a live action series, but then this trailer was just like a trailer. I don't think it was really
it was just a trailer.
And then after that they did Legacy, which came on Mortal Kombat Legacy was on I forgot what channel it was. I don't know if it was on like Spike TV for a little bit or something, but then they actually turned it into an actual series for a little while. It wasn't very long. Like the episodes were like 7 minutes long. They covered like a little bit of each character, but not, like it didn't go like extensively long. They had some characters were in it, some people were in it. And like I said, I think it went like 1 or 2 seasons for like 4 episodes, and then that was it. And we didn't see anything else after that. And
that was made after the trailer on YouTube. I'm talking about.
Yeah. It looks like trailer.
It looks like
after that trailer.
I guess level one online was saying it's Rebirth.
Yeah, that's what it's called. It's called Rebirth.
That what it's called. Okay, I'll have to look that up.
It's called Rebirth.
Yeah.
Desist.
Oh, you know what I'm thinking of? I'm thinking of Street Fighter Legacy. I think that's what it's called, because they did a fan-made Street Fighter series based on like pre-alpha Street Fighter, where Ken and Ryu were training under Goken, and then the lore of the Satsuno Hado was starting to kind of like was the Satsuno Hado power coming, and Ryu like inherited it from Akuma. And but I was thinking of that because it says Street Fighter Legacy, and I thought it was Mortal Kombat Legacy was on there too. But
all right, I didn't know that either. We're getting way off track though. What do you think, Daniel, of the newer Mortal Kombat games? What was it? 11 is the newest one that came out.
11's
10,
the new one,
and so now it's completely digital CG. The X-ray punches, when they punch and you see the X-ray view, you see the bone break and the jaw dislocate, and some of the fatalities in that. If you see these, and how would you have pictured that? Like, would that be something that you would have thought of back in the day but couldn't do? Because some the fatalities in these last few games have been insanely brutal. I don't know how much of the newer ones that you've played or seen, but
I like the graphics that look really, really cool. X-ray we had we already thought of that idea in the first game.
Really?
So, oh yeah, we had we thought a lot. Like brutalities too was one of Johnny Cage's second fatality that I thought of was like a brutality where he'd fall to his knees and then I friggin' do like just pound and beat him like like no martial arts. So a lot of the concepts that I see now, I was like, oh, we thought of that, in the first game. So, but the graphics look really good. It's just only thing I don't like is like Mortal Kombat is like a martial art game, and so when you have Alien, which hey, if Alien came out, Alien has a game, I'll buy it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Like, I agree with you. I agree with you.
Or Freddy Krueger, hey, if there's a Freddy Krueger movie, I will purchase a ticket or buy it and watch it at home. So I think characters like that should have like their own games because they don't really know martial arts, so they shouldn't maybe be in a martial arts.
Yeah,
I get it.
Yeah, it's really gone off the rails as far as being a martial arts game. It's
I think it got. I think once John let for lack of better, when Ed started taking over, it went in a different direction than how John had foresaw it or created it. So in a different direction. But he was the boss and he has the right to do that. But too, again, a lot of people misinterpret like the creation. Like he did create, but he didn't come up with the he didn't come up with the like ideas. We were like, hey, I want to do this. Okay, I'll create that. But we already gave you the image. You know what I mean? So it's like a
right.
So a lot of times it's like, oh yeah, he's the co-creator, which is true, he is. But I don't think how if you ask them specifically, like too, he gets embarrassed if you're like, hey, did you say no to the first Mortal Kombat? He doesn't like to hear that but it is a true story. You can ask. I was there. Dana was there. My brother was there. John Tobias was there. So, you know what I mean. So you don't want to be the guy who kind of said no to Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
And then later on, you want to take creation credit, kind of. But it is a tricky realm.
Did you say no to Mortal Kombat? Yes, I did. I wanted to do this Jean-Claude Van Damme thing. It was going to be great.
The story gets mixed up too, but in the end, he did it. He deserves credit for that. But it's not quite. As I was telling you, there's so many things. Get Over Here, somebody else created. Rich the Video created. How we created like different things was a big collaboration, and a lot of times, it was just the actors and Tobias.
Right. Yeah, because hearing the story that you told, it seemed like he would come in and be like, what's this? What can we do with this? And then he would go back into his office, like you said. Yeah,
because he's the boss, and we're only doing two big cabinets. He doesn't, he's the boss. He wants to do as little work as possible. It's just like any other boss. You do really good, he gets the credit. If you do bad, it's not the boss's fault. It's the worker's fault.
That's how it works, I guess.
Yeah.
One of my favorite, we were talking about fatalities, and maybe we can go around and ask everybody and then see what your thought is about it. My favorite fatality from the first one, hands down, is Scorpion ripping his face off and blowing, shooting the fire out of his face and burning the guys up. That was my favorite. That was the one I could do the best. It was always like right there. That was my favorite fatality from the first Mortal Kombat.
Holding block from a sweep distance, and it's up. That's a block up.
Yeah. So
yes.
Originally, the guy who was going to do Kung Lao is going to do the Lin Kuei, but he dropped a weight on his toe the night before. But when John and I were buying the ninja costume, it was cheaper for us to buy a kid's extra large than to buy an adult medium. And so we were laughing when we bought this, and we're like, we're going to fit Tony, because he's a thinner guy, into a kid's extra large to save money.
Oh my gosh.
He drops a weight on his toe and breaks his toe, and he can't do anything slow, because his toe is broken. He can't support his weight. So John is like, you got to do this because we're already behind schedule. You got to throw on this costume. So as soon as I put this costume on, I throw a kit to warm up, and it rips. So we put the rip together with straight pins because nobody had safety pins.
What?
Yeah. We're trying to fit this costume in. So I'm doing moves and I'm not having a good time. So John is like, I want you to blow fire out of this and burn this guy for a fatality. And I look at John and it's like, John, I'm not doing it. And John is like, why not? And I was like, because if I blow fire, my whole head is on fire because I have cloth on my face. And John is like, don't be an asshole. Wear a mask. Rich was shooting a little bit of Kano at the time for back, because we would be shooting different things, coming up with ideas and reshooting. And Rich looks at me and he's like, Rich is deathly afraid of skeletons even today. And Rich is like, what if he pulls off his mask and he's a skeleton? And then I look at Rich and I was like, and his head is on fire. And then everybody's like, oh my God, that's going to be so awesome. So that's how that came up.
Oh, okay.
That's crazy.
Does anybody else have a favorite fatality from the first one that we'd like to give the backstory for?
I don't.
Sub-Zero spinal rip.
Actually, that is for Mortal Kombat 2. That's one of the moves that Ed came up with. I came up with the Raiden's teleport, and then later on, when we were filming Scorpion, he came up with Scorpion coming one side of the screen to the other. So Ed created those two moves for Mortal Kombat 1. So the other one was, he was like, hey, I want you to grab like Predator, pull his spine off. And then I was just like, well, technically you can't pull his spine off, because if you just pull like this, pull his spine, the spine will fall apart. But I was like, but I would imagine that if you grab the neck and pull it straight up really quick, you would maybe be able to grab the whole spine. And so we were like,
crazy.
So we were like, okay, let's just try to film that. So that's how that whole process came through.
That's great. That's great.
Oh my God.
I don't have one because I couldn't pull off fatalities for the life of me in any of those games until I played the newer ones, and I was like, oh, that's how you do it. And I went back and I experimented. I'm like, Scorpion does this and this. Does he do it in here? And I did it, and I was like, oh, cool. So me learning how to play the old games, I had to play the new games to learn how to play the freaking old games. So it's kind of funny to me back then. But I don't have anyone now. I mean, back then, more of like the ones now, but not too much back then, because like I said, I didn't really play too much of the older ones, not too much. I didn't really start getting into Mortal Kombat until after Mortal Kombat 9. Or no, Mortal Kombat Deception is when I really started to get into Mortal Kombat.
I love that one.
It's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Again, but which one wasn't it? Deception that had more characters on it than any of the other ones? Which one? I think it was
Armageddon.
It was Armageddon. Armageddon
Okay.
had all of them, and then I think the lore was just all over the place. So then they just decided to reboot and just do 9 and act like 9 is where time changes, which they didn't just say we're just going to do a hard reboot. They just said, hey, there's an event that happens where time drifts off this timeline and it goes into a new one, which you get 10 and 11. Like I said, man, I'm Mortal Kombat lore. I'm there most of the time.
You got it. You got it all right here.
Yeah, I'm there.
There was one, it was for the PlayStation. It was one that didn't come out on arcade. It was either 4, 5, 6, something like. It was the first one that was a CG, like full on 3D.
I want to say it was probably 4.
4, yeah.
4.
Okay, because it
4.
lost the full video. It wasn't actual characters anymore.
Yeah,
yeah.
And
It was.
I hated that. Hated it.
They did like they did the face scans, but they made them look like actual people because they think they scanned faces or something like that. But like the models and everything were 3D.
No, I didn't like it. I wanted Daniel back in it. He wasn't in it. It was all just fake. It was fake bullshit. Anyway, sorry. I digress. Switch, do you have any? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna mention we have our fearless leaders. Little quiet.
I know.
In the corner of my screen here.
Okay. If you guys are ready for me, I can start. I'll let you. I was just enjoying the conversation, letting you guys flow with your questions, and I got a few. I'll tell you right now. I was more of a Street Fighter guy, but I'll tell you why. I don't want to say it too loud. I know that when I first had Mortal Kombat the game, I was not doing good in school. I was messing up. I was screwing up. I was a big gamer. I just got the game, but I was doing something really bad in school. There's something really bad. And my dad, you know what? I praise him for this because he put my ass in the spot, but he grabs the game because I did something really bad in school. He drops the game. Fatality or something. He just
I had that.
I'm surprised he didn't say that, but it's just like I just know that I've never played the game since that moment, and I was very young. And
I've had that happen.
That's traumatizing.
I've had that happen to me.
The thing is, if you're as a young kid at school and I was goofing off and not doing my part, I have a son. You know, if he started screwing up and all he did was play games, I'd probably do the same thing or just be like, "Nah, I'll take it away" or something. Maybe not exact on it, but it's just like I enjoyed the movies, things like that. I saw a lot of the Mortal Kombat through the years, and I just always wanted to get that chance. But then it's just Street Fighter just blew in my mind. But something does interest me about you, Daniel. I'm super geeked out to know. What was your experience in Ninja Turtles 2?
Oh, yeah.
You're
playing one of the Shredder's
foot ninjas. The foot ninjas.
Like, can you tell me anything about that? Because
it was really fun to film. Got to go to North Carolina for like 4 months to film this movie, and two, it's it was like more of an old school type of stunts. They recruited all of us, some of us from tournaments, martial art tournaments. And you got a turtle with a foam head. And the eyes are about this big. I don't know if you guys could see really, really small eyes and about 6 inches away from your regular eyes. So you can only see whatever's in front of you, directly in front of you. So if you ever go back and watch the movie, you will see the Foot Clan moving in these crazy movement because we can't get caught flat-footed. We got to have some movement and see which way the kick is going to come, so that way we can jump in front of the kick or the punch or the weapon, the foam weapon.
Cool.
So we had to like a non-stunt person could not do this, or a guy who's never. If you've done 2 or 3 years of martial art training, you can't do this movie. You have to have some experience to do this movie too. So that you can read the techniques. You practice the techniques and you practice the choreography, but it's not going to be the same as when this guy puts his head on. So it is really a really good experience. And then I realized that just because of the cuts of the movie and I'm dressed like a ninja, I can be like beaten up like 40, 50 different times.
Right. I was gonna ask. I was like, were you in a specific, or were you like all throughout the movie, just kind of getting thrown around?
With the movie, a lot of the times, I would be getting beat up.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. Do you remember Donatello, Leif Tilden? We were supposed to have him recently, but we're rescheduling with him. But Leif Tilden played Donatello in there. Do you remember any of the actors in the suits?
Yeah, actually, we did. I've eaten with him, hung out with a little bit of Leaf, but there is at the beginning. There's 2 sets of turtles. There's the acting turtles who have like a 70-pound suit on, so they're not doing any martial arts. Because, because
wow, 70 pounds.
Because doesn't it also include like the animatronic head that's on it as well?
Yeah,
because you can see like the movement of the head and the eyes. So
battery. So he was one of the actor turtles, and then they have the stunt turtles who have this foam thing, and that weighs like 30 pounds. And then at the end, because we were running short, they hired 2 more sets of stunt turtles. So there was like 4 sets of turtles.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a lot of turtles. We're trying to just run from place to place, trying to get the filming done.
I did not know that. So they had the acting turtles, they had the stunt turtles, and then they hired more actors towards the end of the production.
Yeah,
because of location.
Yeah. And in the end, they were asking like, "Hey, do you have a friend who is about your height and your size?" Because again, like if I was a turtle, I'd be like a 6-foot turtle. I couldn't.
Yeah.
Even though I'm 5'8", if you're adding 3 inches, now I'm almost, I'm almost 6 foot tall. So I think the threshold for a turtle is 5'6".
I think so that sounds about right.
Small people to go in these turtle costumes. So who knew martial arts, who were skilled to be able to do this stuff. So, it was cool. It was cool.
Oh man,
that's crazy.
I had one time I don't know if we could say this, but I was out drinking with Super Shredder, who is
Kevin Nash.
Kevin Nash.
Did Kevin Nash really play Super Shredder?
Kevin Nash was
I'm freaking out right now. That's crazy.
Oh
my god.
I did not know that, actually.
Yeah, dude.
We're driving with this professional stunt driver, and Kevin and I were in the back seat, and this guy pulled into the intersection, did 180, and then in this rent-a-car, and was going backwards like 60 miles an hour down a street that was a one-way street because you couldn't get cars on it.
Oh my god!
Kevin jumped into my lap, and we were both hugging each other because we thought we were going to die.
Yeah,
because this guy is a professional stunt driver, man. I never seen. You see it in the movies, but when you're in the car doing it, it's
that's crazy
experience.
I know exactly. That's exactly what I'd be doing.
Yeah. So I actually have a picture of him. Him and I finished a 5th of Jaeger, and he's holding the Jaeger bottle like this, like in between his fingers. Like I'm like this, pointing at it, and he's holding it like this. We finished it after that near-death experience. Really?
Because I think Kevin Nash is he's like 6'7", something like that. 6'6".
He's a big guy.
He's a big boy.
Yeah, he's an awesome guy.
That's so funny.
I was going to ask you, out of your entire career, what was your proudest moment of everything you've done with Mortal Kombat, or just all together martial arts? If you have like the ultimate moment where you're so proud of yourself, or is it?
I think it was like, when at the time I was training, I got right after Mortal Kombat, I was training harder. And then the guy who's my master, who's a martial art master, Gojin Bai, he's like, one day I come in, we're working, and he's like, and I felt like, man, I've improved a lot, just doing that. And he looked at me, he's like, you have the connection, you're a master level. Like it's an old school master level, doesn't mean you know the complete system. It means you have a mind-body connection. So, and then I was like, oh, I kind of have that. And he's like, oh, I could see you kind of have that. But later on, I trained with a famous Bagua Zhang master. And Bagua is a style that is in The Last Airbender. The Airbender does this style. So, but when this guy asked me to do something in order to teach me, I did like one move, and he was like, just hold up his hand. And then he told the guy, he's like, you're master level. You're mind body connection. So he can tell just from one move that I was at this point in training where I had this connection, I guess. And when you get it, you can tell who has it, and when you don't, it's kind of like when you wine taster. Like if you give me red wine, I don't know what year.
Right.
Some guys could taste it and tell you what vineyard, what year, and what month they picked the freaking grapes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like something like that with martial arts. Like your body is running as efficiently doing this technique as it possibly can. You know, so it's really a matter of strength. It's just about all skill and body mechanics and body alignment and physics. So when I got recognized that, I would say that was like my proudest moment for other people to be like, oh, like I said, I did one move and the guy was like, hold on. He was like, he asked me where I trained with and stuff like that. And I told him, and he's like, I never heard of that guy. And then I said, oh, this guy trained with this guy. And he was like, hold, wait, that's my Kung Fu brother. And then he was like, he's like, can you do more? And I did more. And he's like, you're me. He goes, and that's why the guy like taught me all this stuff and took me on as a student, because he's like, you're my nephew. You know, you trained with somebody who trained with my Kung Fu brother. You're my family. And he's like, wow. And you're the first Caucasian guy that I've ever seen connected.
Okay.
So
crazy.
Yeah, super proud moment.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I think what was QA was saying you train do you train in the Chicago area?
Yeah, I should train in Chicago proper. Pesina's martial arts. If you look at free plug, if you Master Pesina, www.masterpesina.com, or on Instagram it's Master D Pesina, on Twitter it's Master Pesina, Facebook it's Master Pesina. Just look for Master Pesina, and I train out of Chicago.
Does anyone like people require, let's say, because I live in the Chicago area too, if someone asks of your time, let's say 30 minutes of your time for an autograph or a photo, do you have a charge for that, or do you just?
That usually just depends on if I have time or not.
Or time,
yeah. One time I was at the school and I was having a private lesson, and a guy comes in. He was a friggin' big guy, and he looks around and he's like, he goes, "Are you the head instructor here?" And then I'm like, "Yeah." And I thought I was like, "Okay, this guy's going to challenge me." You know what I mean? Because he's just a big guy, like aggressive. And then he's like, "Oh my God, you're Daniel." and
So
this guy was literally like 6'2", and he had an Eastern Bloc, rather Russian or Ukrainian. He had like that thick accent, and he was like friggin' huge. And apparently, he got a layover in Chicago for 4 hours just so he can come visit the school and get my autograph, and then go back to the airport and fly home. So,
wow.
Yeah, so if you catch me in the school, you could get one. Otherwise, it just depends how the logistics come in.
Cool. Very awesome. Thank you so much for the opportunity for my questions. And anyone else, guys?
I have one thing I wanted to ask, and it was there, and now it's gone. So I got to look for another one to ask.
Oh no!
I had it, and it was like a good one, but now it's gone. It was something about. Well, I was gonna kind of comment and ask a question. Like it's like you mentioned earlier that it's like the old school kind of martial arts with Ninja Turtles, and it's true because like you see there's like full fight choreography in all three movies, like the old school movies, and I'm a huge Ninja Turtle fan, and I've seen every single movie, no matter how it was done. I've seen all the shows. I'm currently reading all the comic books, so I'm there like 100%. And what I was very disappointed in the two CGI movies they've done, and it's been like this weird tradition in the first old school 3 movies where they have these huge fights with the foot ninjas, and it's just like such a awesome moment. And it's like we didn't really get that in the other two, where it's like the first set of foot ninjas were mercenaries, and it was just like, really, with guns and stuff. I get what you're trying to do, but we didn't get that big thing. And then when they kind of go back to the kind of traditional ninja sense in the second one, we still didn't kind of get that nice little fight choreography with all the turtles and stuff. So that's the one thing I do miss about that, is just they didn't. I wish they would have went back to like the old kind of the choreography and the cinema to kind of bring that kind of, they're Ninja Turtles. They should show off their arts, not just their agility, which is still cool to see them doing that, but they kind of see their martial arts training there. And from that, my question is, well, not from that, but it's another question. Since you came up with the concept of Johnny Cage, you've been Johnny Cage for the first 2 games. What do you think of the character Johnny Cage now from when you first kind of came up with the concept of Johnny Cage in the first game?
Question.
Yeah,
That's a real good question.
Well, too, like the concept of Johnny is kind of like difficult. I can't take credit for the concept because Tobias did tell me this guy's an actor, Hollywood actor, and then I got to create everything else on it. So it was kind of like, again, a collaboration. But I think it went through stages, and one of the stages was that whole when we were fighting, they made Johnny Cage like a clown. But now he's kind of like an older guy, and he's kind of like has like a little more wisdom, as I perceive it. And he's got daughters, so it kind of went through these phases, and it's I like where it is right now. I think it's all right. I think too, being from a martial art background, there's no, when you actually do martial arts, there's really no clowning around with martial arts. You know what I mean? They in the old movies they bow to each other because I got to respect this guy, because if I clown around, this guy will kill me. This guy has skills. It's not like getting a fight in a bar or something like that where the guy might not have any skills and you get to easily, if you're really brutal, you could probably end it pretty quickly. So with that, I like the direction that it's kind of going to, but I don't think, again, with guns, guns and that type of projectiles don't belong in a martial art tournament like this, because it's not, I want to beat you with my hands. I don't need a gun to do it, because when you practice martial arts, it's about the ego. It really is. Everybody's like, there's a saying that I hear, like, and you guys could help me on this. Like, there's a saying like, "Oh, master, you teach me martial arts, but you practice non-violence." And then the master says it's better to be a warrior in this world than a gardener, or something like that. And whenever I hear that, I kind of laugh, and I'm like, this guy never studied with an old school martial art guys, because it is about ego, and my martial art skill can outdo your martial art skill, and and the extreme violence of it. So it's not taught to me. So when I learned it, it wasn't taught to me like they would say it was a self-defense, but you never practice it like a self-defense.
It wasn't Mr. Miyagi stuff.
No, that's movie stuff. That doesn't happen in any traditional martial arts school. It could happen in a sports school that doesn't want you to do too much violence or stuff like that. But when you go see these old guys, like one of my masters was hunted during the Cultural Revolution, because they were hunting martial art guys to either kill them or brainwash, or to show that the government can deal with anybody. You know what I mean?
Really?
Yeah. So he was in situations where he had to take lives with his martial arts. So, and I was like, wow, was that tough? And he's like, it wasn't that tough, because before if you got challenged, you would fight to the death. So he goes, I did a couple of those. So that's not as bad as fighting somebody who doesn't know martial arts. And you kill him. And I was just like, so this guy has literally killed people with his hands.
Whoa.
Yeah. So, that's like, wow.
And that is in training with somebody that is not, he never hit me. But the training is brutal. The training is brutal where you can't. I took a couple of my top students to train with this guy, and after 1 or 2 days, they couldn't walk, just from the rigorous training, not from being beating or anything like that. This guy was so skilled. When you would do stuff, he wouldn't have to hit you. You know what I mean? You'd be moving around, and all of a sudden, you'd feel like his foot, like you're holding his arms, and you're hugging him really close, and somehow he'd sneak his foot and put it in your throat and just crush. Oh, crap. And you're like, how and can you do that? You know what I mean? Just so it's really, when you get that, it's amazing. So anyway, so I digress or something like that. But it bugged me when like Johnny Cage or Jax or Cassie Cage pull out a gun and shoot. No, martial art guys would not do that. We're too egotistical to do that.
Yeah, that is amazing. Yeah, that is. I had a final question, but I don't know if I can even like follow it up after a story like that. It's gonna sound stupid.
Go ahead. Are you gonna ask it?
Well, yes. First of all, if I don't get a chance to speak again, this has been a fascinating conversation. I know I've been all over the place because there's so much I want to know, and you've been just awesome. But we all talked about how much we liked the first Mortal Kombat movie, and this kind of came off of KOTETSU asking, how you thought of the evolution of the Johnny Cage character from game to game. But what did you think of the actor who played Johnny Cage in the first Mortal Kombat movie?
Well, that's a good question.
Thank you. I was worried.
For me, the guy who did Johnny Cage, Scorpion, Sub-Zero, the guys who do them now, anybody who acts like me is really, really cool. And my hats off to them because they're doing, it's hard to, when somebody's using the rope dart, or they call it a kunai now, but the kunai is technically used different than how they're picturing it. So if I was still there, I'd be like, you guys are not using a kunai because that's not the proper way to use it. It's used for climbing and digging. It's not used to, it's too heavy to throw at you, because if you throw that type of object at another martial artist, we'll just get out of the way because it's too slow. But the rope dart is designed to wrap it around your body and come out really, really fast and mask the movement if you really know how to do it. So that's why I picked that Scorpion to have that weapon. But if no matter who Scorpion is, he is still using something I came up with, so they do not suck. So you got you do it. So that's how I look at it. You have the actors, and the actors who are portraying the characters in Mortal Kombat, and then you have the guys in the first and second game who got the chance to create that. So whenever Liu Kang actors are awesome, but Ho Sung Pak created Liu Kang. When we were creating it, it was like, oh, you're a Shaolin monk, now go ahead, do whatever you want to do. That's what it was. So all those moves that you see Liu Kang do, it was created by Ho Sung. Ho created that. Kano is Rich DeVizio. Just some actor got, an actor got money to portray Kano.
Well, that guy died.
Rich, who created, didn't get that much money. He just did it for the love of making a video. So anybody who acts like me or acts like one of my friends is awesome.
That's a good way to look at it. That's a good way to look at it. But yeah, I know I just said something random there, but the guy who played Kano in the Mortal Kombat movie, he died of COVID.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, complications of COVID, something, I saw it the other day. It was just like last year, but yeah, man.
Yeah,
that's crazy. That's a good way to look at it, because Johnny Cage from the video games, the Johnny Cage that you played, you know, and then while all this was going on at the height of Mortal Kombat popularity, this movie came out. And as much as I like that movie, the actor who played Johnny Cage in that movie I felt like was very far removed from the Johnny Cage from the video games, which was you. It was just.
I would agree with that, but you know what? They bought the rights to the movie. They get to cast it however they want to do it.
Yeah, that's true.
Too, when they were kind of tempted us with being part of the movie, but when I heard how much they were getting paid, I was like, dude, you know, you guys didn't pay me for the video game. Now you don't want me to pay me to make the movie.
I've always been curious about that.
Thank you. No, thank you.
I was always curious.
Yeah, get somebody else.
Hey, QA, real quick, guys. We have been here for an hour and 40 minutes of FQA. If you want to, Daniel, if you want to proceed, or if you want to go into closing comments, we can. QA.
Sure, definitely. I appreciate, you taking the time once again, and it was awesome conversation. We all learned a whole lot, a lot of Easter eggs being tossed at us, which was cool to go back in time, and a lot of nostalgia with everything. And one comment I would like to make is it's really awesome that you really embrace the everything that you did for, the Ninja Turtles series and for Mortal Kombat. I can see that you're very active in the community. Like when I met you a couple years back at the Retro Video Game Con in Connecticut, back when things were normal. I miss cons. But it's just nice to see you really embrace it and really be active out in the community right now with that. And it's really cool. And we appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. The honor's mine, man. I had so much fun tonight, man. It was really good. We were all over the place because I think we're geeks, we're gamers.
We didn't even game of all time. What's your favorite game of all time?
My favorite game of all time, I would say, is Halo.
Oh,
okay. That's good. Okay. Good choice.
Halo or Doom. Even the computer Doom, I loved.
What did you think of the what was it, Doom Eternal that came out last year?
Yeah, I liked it.
You like it? Yeah, it's really good.
If you're a fan of, really quick, man, we're going to go on forever. But two, I'm like that for like Star Wars. I'm a big Star Wars guy. And people are like, oh, they didn't do this or didn't do that in Star Wars. Well, for one, it's Star Wars. You can't change too much because it is Star Wars. Two, if you're so crazy about Star Wars and discover all the secrets of Star Wars, you can't say that you're disappointed that they didn't surprise you. Because you took all the effort for months to find out everything about it. And then you want them to surprise you when you already ruined the surprise.
I get that. I get that.
Just embrace whatever you love and don't.
I think that.
If you love Star Wars, you're gonna love it. I've said this on this show before. There's some people that get out of bed and get on Twitter and be like, "What can I crap on today?" And that goes with Star Wars. It goes with video games, the new sequel. We were talking about like Pokemon the other day and how, how that community is, what can I love this series so much. I want to find what I can hate about it. And then I want to bitch about that. It's all over the place.
Yeah. It's like, if you love a series, your goal is to spread the awareness, not spread the awareness of what is wrong or what could be done better. Is you take whatever comes to you, because no matter what, you're going to have love for it, no matter which direction they go. And like I said, we talked about this before. I asked for a whole hour to talk about Pokemon fans, and I pray we get that because I have so much to talk about.
Oh, we will.
How and toxic Pokemon fans are.
We'll be definitely doing a special stream with Daniel on just Star Wars topics.
I love Star Wars, even though when I watch the lightsaber battles, I'm like, ooh. You know what I mean? But I still, but if Star Wars is on TV, I will drop everything I'm doing and sit down and friggin' watch them all over again.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And now that they're on Disney Plus, I think I've watched all 9 of them probably 5-6 times a piece since that started. Mandalorian's good stuff.
I'm a Star Wars fan. So what if the actor can't really do sword? Who cares? Star Wars.
What did you think of Ray Park as Darth Maul? Because I think he's actually trained with like a staff and does martial arts.
I thought he did a good job. I thought he did a good job. But you know, for me, it's about the nemesis. Meaning, like, if I want to look really good, and Jackie Chan does this, and Donnie Yen, and all those guys, all the other guys do it, they find somebody whose martial arts is just as good or better, and that's who the bad guy is. Because then
that makes sense.
Really shine, because the guy who is really good can make you look really good.
That makes sense.
So Ray Park did a really good job. They should have just got better stunt guys, or not the get the actors to do the look, but put a stunt guy in who knows what they're doing to do the battles.
I'm sure they tried to make it as close as them doing it as much as they can, because I've seen some of the videos where they go through a lot of the training. But even with those videos, what they train for, it never really comes out 100% in the camera, because it's like, camera, ooh, I gotta look pretty, I don't want to do that. And it's, you know, which is training, you're just like you're, you know.
Which reminds me, I just started a Twitch channel, and the first weapon we're doing is how to apply a lightsaber to actually sword work. And so I'm cool. Doing this stuff, and I'm saying, you can do this in a movie, but know that this technique, if you do it in real life, you'll die, you'll kill yourself, because the actual sword techniques are much different than what you see in the movies. But I love Star Wars so much that I teach lightsaber. I teach it like an old school swordsman. So it's not just like, oh, this is just bash each other. No, there's like a science beside, you know, if I'm gonna do it, there's a science behind it.
Oh yeah.
That's my Twitch channel. There's my Twitch plug.
Is your Twitch channel your name?
Yeah, Master D Pesina.
Okay.
Tuesday nights, or you can look at, I learned how to put that on YouTube, look at my YouTube and watch all the lightsaber stuff, and you can see like different, just when you're watching it, like, oh, I didn't know you could do that, or oh, I see that in movies, but now that you explained it, don't use that like that in movies. But you could for entertainment, you should use stuff like that. But know that in real life, if you ever really got a lightsaber, don't use it like that.
I just want to say something in closing, because I know we've been for, like I said, we can go all day. I think it's really cool to be sitting here and talking to you, and like QA said, asking questions about Mortal Kombat and just the start of it, and you guys kind of building that foundation to the characters, you know, individual personality and story. Because like I said, I follow Mortal Kombat, like, not crazy, but I know I'm pretty well versed in it. And then to see where you say, okay, well, there's going to be the Lin Kuei started here, and we had one guy, and now we have two, and then now it's, you know, Lin Kuei and the Shirai Ryu, which is Scorpion's clan, and like you said, they had beef, and you know, Scorpion died, his family died, he was resurrected, and now this revenge story against the Lin Kuei. And then you mentioned, you know, Liu Kang, how he's Shaolin, and how in the stories now he was like chosen to be that chosen warrior from a Shaolin from the, you know, one of the schools. And it's just really cool just to see just the basis of the story, and for me to look back now and just see where it is and how solid it is now. And it's just been an amazing time to be able to talk to you and like you said, geek out and just get soak up so much information.
Yeah, it definitely has. And I've been on this podcast since we're on 56 now. I was like, I think my first one was 32, 33. And
November? I think so. I think it was November.
It was like in November. And I have not geeked out on very many guests. But when I heard that you were going to be on, it was like, Daniel Pesina, really?
Screaming like a little girl.
You know, so it's been a fascinating conversation, and some of the stories that you shared with us. And I'm just really happy to have been here and had a chance to talk to you.
Yeah, thanks.
Real quick,
Thank you.
Before I let QA finish up, thank you again for your time, for the opportunity to have you speak with us and for us, for you to answer the questions. And I geeked out with the Ninja Turtles thing, and I was glad I was able to get to know you more. And oh man, I get a little nervous right now. This is cool. This is a great experience, to know where you come and what you've done. We grew up, being a part of you, and you just kind of you brought such goodness to us. We appreciate you so much, and we hope that in the near future maybe we can have you again, talk some awesome, maybe some Star Wars, something else, see what's going on in life. And other than that, appreciate you so much. Thank you so much, sir. QA.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
Oh wait, did you watch The Mandalorian too? Speaking of Star Wars, did you watch?
I have not watched it yet, but I'm going to binge watch it pretty soon.
Okay, you got to come back and we will talk an hour about that.
Yes, yes.
And you guys, thanks for having me. It is. I recently, like with this Twitch channel and things like that, I have a new respect for people who, like you guys, are doing this. It is friggin' really, really difficult and takes a lot of time, and there's a lot of hurdles to get over. And to, I've been on interviews where it has not been so lively, but there's a skill to make your guests feel welcome and to draw questions and just to make them comfortable, to hang out and be like, oh, this is not an interview. It's like tonight was like a hangout. It really was. All over the place because it's a hangout. And anybody again who's going to listen to this podcast, thanks for taking the time to listen. Like, time is precious. We can be doing other things, but you guys haven't taken the time out to invite me on the show, and I had such a good time. I really, really appreciate it.
Awesome.
We appreciate you being here.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, we'll drag one of the other guys so that way we can have fun. Or somebody,
Yeah, I'm watching your Twitch channel right now. I know we're trying to finish up, but I keep and I'm watching your Twitch channel right now, and I'm going to watch it more. It's really fascinating. I like what you're doing. I'm also on Twitch, and when you talk about how hard it is to do stuff like this, it is extremely, difficult, especially on something like Twitch, to build an audience, and on YouTube, to continue to talk for 3, 4, sometimes 5 hours at a time, to build an audience. And you should have 1 million followers on your Twitch channel right now.
Well,
you'll get there one day.
Yeah, it's fun. It is fun. It is really, really fun. But like I said, thanks again. It's awesome.
Yeah, super cool stuff.
Yeah. That's all I've got. Again, we appreciate it. And if everybody has any more questions or no more questions, I guess we can close up and finish everything off. It's been an awesome. The time went by so fast. I didn't realize how quickly time would go by.
Yeah, I had no idea either.
That's good. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll get to hang out again soon.
All right, awesome.
Please.
Thanks again.
Okay, peace.
All right, take care, everybody.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you guys for joining the Gamerz Realm podcast, and we'll see you guys all next time. All right, take care, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.